Hey everybody, we're here at Retromania New Braunfels 2023. We are hoping to speak with Brian Tochi, an actor. He's been working for decades. When I saw that he was going to be at this event, I thought, wow, he looks familiar. Like, I think he was in Star Trek The Next Generation. So I looked it up online, and sure enough, there was a photo of him from Star Trek TNG. But guess what? Right next to that was a photo of him from the original Star Trek series. I knew exactly which episode that was. It was from And the Children Shall Lead. He played one of the children there. He was 10 or 11 years old, and my jaw hit the floor. So here we are today. I contacted Retromania about speaking with him. I want to talk to him about his early career in the 60s and the 70s and find out what that was like. He was on Kung Fu, Hawaii Five-0, Wonder Woman, many series. And I hope to talk to him about that, and maybe we'll learn some fun facts. Well, I'm so interested in that TV culture, network culture of the 60s and 70s, and I want to ask you some questions and just, learn some stuff.
Okay. I might not know the answer.
Yeah. These are questions about things that happened 50 years ago. So. Well, first of all, this week at my home has been Brian Tochi week.
Oh, you're kidding.
I did the drawing, and I went back and I looked at a bunch of the series and episodes that you had been in. And Pamela Ferdin. Pamela, okay. And then I realized, she was also with you in
Space Academy.
And so you get to work with an old friend?
Yeah, it was. It's so funny because before Jodie Foster, there was Pam Ferdin. Mm-hmm. I mean, she was the go-to girl at the time when we were all younger.
Yes.
And then, and she did all these great things. But Jodie kind of moved up from that point. But it was so great because Pam and I, again, one of the first things I ever did was Star Trek. Mm-hmm. And then to do a series with her years later, it was really it was great.
Must have been a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Now, first of all, let me ask a technical question. Does it sound like you catching the audio okay? Okay.
Okay, yeah, with all the ambient stuff.
Okay, so just briefly, when you started, and you said Star Trek was one of your first acting jobs that you had.
Right.
Just briefly, how did you get into that? I guess your parents were instrumental in that, or you must have. You're very extroverted, obviously.
Well, actually, I was such a. Did you see the panel?
I'm sorry, I did not.
Oh no, it's good because it's so funny because I was kind of a shy kid, but I was loud. And it's really funny because my father and mom, they had a hair salon in Beverly Hills, the hair salon. And there was another guy named John Peters who had the competing hair salon for all of the Hollywood glitterati, so to speak. And so what happened was, at the time, like for example, John Peters, he became a producer. He produced like Batman. He was producer of Columbia. He was president of Columbia Pictures.
That name sounds familiar.
John Peters. Look at all Batman, everything. He produced all those things. He used to be a hairdresser, and then he hooked up with Barbara Streisand, who was his client, and she brought him into the producer fold. So anyway, that's how he got to be a. So my mom and dad had this other hair salon called Tochi Coiffure of Beverly Hills, and my dad's clients were like Lucille Ball, Lana Turner, Hedy Lamarr, Judy Garland, Liza. We're all and the wives of all the big stars and stuff. And so at the time I was a little kid. I was like 5. I was running around the salon, and sometimes, and then there was like this top child agent, Dorothy Deotis, who was my dad's client, and she would see me running around and stuff doing all this wacky things. And she says, "Do you think you might be interested in being in commercials or TV?" So my dad says, "I don't know, might be interesting." So he comes home and tells my mom that Brian could be in television. She says, "Absolutely not. There's no way he's gonna. They're crazy people. There's no way." And so I said, "I want to do it. So they let me do it. And lo and behold, one of the first things, I got to Star Trek. And it was such a great experience because everybody was so nice. And, being on the set was kind of like, it was playtime times 20. And the people I worked with were great. But all the, like I was on Shatner's lap, and you got free ice cream and you got free, it was just, everybody treated you so well. As a kid, I thought, wow, this is something I can do.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Now, do you have any remembrances of Leonard Nimoy as Spock from that job at all?
You know what? Not too much. Okay. He was always kind of standoffish, as I recall.
Yeah.
Bill was really sweet. I remember, what's his name? Well, George Takei and I have been friends for decades and ever, forever and ever. I love George and his husband Brad, and just known him forever. There's what's his name? Chekhov. Who played Chekhov? Do you remember?
Walter Koenig?
Walter Koenig. Walter
Koenig.
Koenig. He, I remember we were goofing around, and he was like, he was kind of saying, you should, he was trying to keep us in line. He was kind of like a, he was just a little more staid in his the way he was. He just wanted to make sure you kids, you got to be, you act this way, be a little gentleman, little this and that. So, but for the most part, I don't remember Nimoy that much.
Okay.
Leonard Nimoy, but he was nice. But it's just there was not a lot of interaction.
Okay. Well, and also that's one thing I wanted to tell you is congratulations on your career, because I know a lot of folks don't have a career that lasts as long as yours, and I know it's probably from a combination of hard work and dedication.
Yeah.
And so again, congrats on that.
Thank you.
From the 1960s when you started.
Well, it's interesting. There was not a lot of Asian faces at all. In the movies and television, it was kind of you had to kind of push to do that.
Yeah.
And even though as a kid, I wanted to work, so I would try and go out there and do stuff. And as I got older, I really pushed it even more so. And then it kind of opened the doors. There was a lot of doors I was very fortunate to break down.
Yeah, right. Well, let me ask you, I've got, your IMDb is incredible. It just goes.
Oh, and then everything's in there either. I hope I'm not killing you because I had this Mexican food this second.
No. But let me ask you just a couple of things. Okay.
You got Leonard Nimoy, so you're a big fan of Leonard Nimoy.
This is a T-shirt that I did design.
Wow.
Myself, yeah. So, the Brady Bunch. Do you remember anything about being
I
on
do.
the Brady Bunch?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. When you're a kid actor in that time, you do the rounds, kind of.
Yeah.
I did the Brady Bunch, I did the Partridge Family, I did, those kind of things.
And the agents are probably saying, well, he wasn't too difficult to work with. Let's get him over to this other show.
Well, that's the other thing, too, is that back in the day, it was everybody knew everybody. There was a handful of people that was always working, and not like today where, everybody and their grandmother is in entertainment. And there's so many different venues, whether it be streaming, platforms or online platforms or whatever. So there's so much content, so many people working. But back then, it was kind of like, okay, he's available, so we'll get him to do this, be able to do that. Still auditioned on many occasions, but the Brady Bunch was one of them where, okay, there's a list of people that are on the top of the list, and basically they said, okay, you just come in and see whoever works. But it was fun. I thought it was, because it was so iconic.
Yeah.
Being the Brady Bunch.
So you as a kid, you knew about the Brady Bunch, right?
Course.
Ahead of time, it's like,
I
get to be on the
watched
Brady
it.
Bunch.
And
yeah,
that was what
I watched it.
That was
Man.
what was so interesting is that here, I'm a fan of television. I was a fan of a lot of the shows, but then to be a part of it was just kind of really fun for me. It was a whole different perspective.
Okay, now I watched the entire movie Omega Man. When I saw it on your IMDb, I said, I can't. Where was Brian Tochi in that? And so I watched it, and I remembered, the hideout up in the hills, and then you were manning the machine gun behind the sandbags.
Well, that's interesting. That was the very first movie I ever did. And what was interesting is that in the original script, I had a lot to do. And it was me and this girl, Jill Giraldi. They kept her stuff in, but a lot of the stuff that I had in there, they cut out just to keep it, because it was such a long movie.
Yeah.
But it was really a great experience. Paul Koslow, Rosalind Cash, and Charlton Heston was like, he was such an icon.
Yeah, and you were there on the back of the Jeep when he's
Tommy,
dying in the fountain.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so that was cool to see you, to spot you, I was watching it late
but
at night
but
while I was working on that drawing. That's him. Up in the machine.
But I had a lot more to do. And they cut a lot of it out. And it's funny because I worked 3 months on that thing. And I lived in Orange County in California. And I would have to sometimes travel up just to go to school. Me and Jill Giraldi, the other kid, we'd just travel up to go to school and then back. But it was really interesting because we filmed when they were building like new freeways in Southern California. And some of them that fell during the earthquake. We had a big earthquake there. But it was so interesting to, Last Man on Earth. Actually filming, they didn't have special effects in.
Yeah.
So they had to completely clear out, entire vistas.
And like shoot at like 6 a.m. or something, right as the sun was rising or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. You just mentioned something I was going to ask you about: schooling.
Yeah.
I've read that a lot of child stars will go to school on set, or their schooling is a little unusual compared to the normal kid. How did that work for you?
Well, for me as a kid actor, a lot of times I would just go to studio school when I had different TV series. Like
they had something called studio school for kids.
That's what we called it. But yeah, it was
On the lot, I guess.
It was on the lot, studio on the lot. Like I did. There was a TV series. I think it was my first TV series with Yul Brynner. It was called Anna and the King. It was a derivative of The King and I. Same producers as MASH. We were back to back on Sunday nights, and it was the most expensive television show in the history of television up to that time. They were paying Yul Brynner an ungodly amount.
Yul Brynner, yeah, big movie star, yeah.
Every 4 days, it was $65,000. Every 4 days, and that was huge money back in the '70s. And what happened was, I would come to school. The thing is that they try to take your curriculum from your regular school and bring it up to studio school. I had a woman named Frances Clampt, Mrs. Clampt. She's historic. If you Google her, she taught Roddy McDowall and Elizabeth Taylor and all these stories. And she'd have these amazing stories. Not Mickey Rooney. The other guy, Jackie Coogan, where the Jackie Coogan lock. And I mean, she was just an amazing historic figure in all of Hollywood who taught the kids. And I got a tail end of that.
Oh, cool.
Which is so cool. So,
very nice.
So basically, we would do only 3 hours of school, and then we're done. But they would, let's say we'd study maybe 30 minutes, then we'd have to go on set. So they stopped the timer, basically. We go and rehearse, or we shoot or whatever, and after we're done, we come back and start on until we get our full 3 hours of schooling in. That's how.
So it wasn't even like a solid 3 hours. It was like 30 minutes, or hour,
yeah,
or whatever.
or whenever they needed you.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Man, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Kung Fu.
Yes.
I just last night watched the one where you were that horrible young man
Oh,
who
God,
poisoned
yeah.
Kwai Chang Caine. How could you do that?
Yeah.
But that was a cool episode. And do you have any remembrances of David Carradine on that? Now I know that you had like the flashback scenes, but I saw that he directed that episode, so maybe you did interact with him.
Well, that's the thing, is that, and David and I were friends until he died. And his brother, Bobby Carradine, and I are really close friends. And Bobby at the time was living with David. And so what happened was this was David's actual first time he ever directed anything. And because he was only in flashbacks for that particular show. I did 3 of them. But
Yes.
they wanted me, they requested me to do the show. And so working with David, he was really a great director, and he was really engrossed. And he was really just a great guy. I really, really loved the guy. And what was cool is that I got to be this really horrible, bad guy that wanted to kill young Caine, have him die, and come back to life. And I wanted to find out how death was. And so it was interesting is that, David, I guess the reason why we remained friends is it was so impactful for him because it was the first time he ever directed. And so he remembered that. And we just kind of maintained that friendship. Didn't see him all the time.
Yeah.
But whenever I did, it was always just a sweet little thing.
Well, that's great. Yeah, I love these stories.
I love being an asshole too. It was
Yeah,
fun.
because you're not usually like that. Usually you're a nice kid.
Not
Hey,
really.
come on,
No,
we
no,
can do
I'm
it,
just
everyone.
saying, golly gee.
But this is like, I'm gonna poison you. And
Yeah,
you're gonna
try
die.
to die, come back to life, die.
And also, I got to say, the very first role you had on Kung Fu, I was bummed because remember, I'm sure you do, you and young Kwai Chang Caine were directed down a bad path and were robbed, and only your character was dismissed from the whole monastery.
Bastards.
Yeah.
Yeah, bastard monastery.
It wasn't his fault.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
was,
No, you know
anyway.
what's really funny? I have a story about that. Is that there's a famous makeup family, the Westmores. The Westmore, they're all makeup. And there was this one of the writers in hiring me is at the time I didn't want to cut my hair. I always had long hair kind of. And so I said, I'm not going to do it. They hired me. But I said to the producers, who I was still
This is
ratty
the Kung
kid,
Fu
Kung
job?
Fu.
Okay.
Yeah, the earlier one, not the one where not
okay,
the one
yes.
where I did the thing with
Yeah,
David.
yeah.
Where he directed. There's another Kung Fu.
Yeah.
And basically I had to wear a skin cap. I said, well, I'll do it if you don't cut my hair. You cannot cut my hair. So they hired me. They said, we're not going to cut your hair. We're going to put skin cap on. So I get to work, Warner Brothers, and I'm this stupid little kid. And I get there, and Wally West, I think it was Wally Westmore, I'm sitting down. The famous, I mean, they're a famous makeup, dynasty. And so I was sitting in the makeup chair, and all of a sudden he starts getting out the shears. And I said, wait, no, you're not gonna cut my hair. No, yes we are. No, you're not. Yes we are. Kid, sit down in the chair. I said, no. I know that I don't have to get a cut. I don't need this. I'm out. So I walked.
You got up and walked out.
I
You must
got
have been
walked
like
out because
14
it
or
was a
15
big
or
thing
something.
for me. It was a big thing.
Yeah.
I said,
Could affect future jobs.
that was the deal. You can't cut my hair. And so I remember it was a day of shooting. They had to either get somebody at the last minute or keep me. So they kept me. And basically, I remember he was so pissed off because he had to fit this
all that hair
bald cap on underneath this thing. He's going, fucking kid, that asshole kid. Anyway, but it was like, I kind of wore it as a badge of courage because I stuck to my druthers.
But the thing is, on those flashback sequences, you can see pretty much everyone's wearing a bald cap.
Yes.
Except I guess maybe even young white Shane Kane, I think was.
Yeah.
So
Radimus Parat.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing is that they at least cut their hair a little bit so it kind of blended easier and didn't stick out. I wouldn't let them touch a centimeter.
Maybe that's why they said, let's write him out. And
They just had your character. And I said, I'm out of here. No, I said, I'm out of here. And then they said, no, it's all right.
That's funny. Okay.
Just a silly aside.
So, what about Jonathan Harris on Space Academy? Do you have any remembrances of him? He's such a big personality.
Jonathan Harris.
Yes.
Dear Jonathan, boy, oh darling, please. I'll give you. Jonathan used to love telling stories because he's a big theater background, right? And he's so big in Lost in Space.
Yes.
Oh, Robinson, oh dear.
You blithering bucket of
blithering,
bolts.
You bumbling, blithering idiot to the robot. Mm-hmm. But basically, he used to love telling stories, and especially like Tallulah Bankhead stories. And I remember this one. I'll give you one thing. He's at this big table of all these celebrities, and everybody's dining and drinking and eating, and he's sitting next to Tallulah Bankhead. And he goes, there was this foul smell that took on the whole kind of area there. Mm-hmm. He goes, oh my God, Tallulah, did you fart? And this is Jonathan telling it, right? He goes, oh, Tallulah, did you fart? She goes, and he does her. He stands up and she goes, of course I did, darling. You don't think I smell like that all the time, do you? Anyway, that's a Jonathan Harris story. But he was just the best because if he liked you, he loved you, and we loved each other. Mm-hmm. And he'd give a chocolate lolly, pop, those Tootsie Pops.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. To everybody, and then if people he hated.
Oh.
And he made no bones about it.
He let you know that.
Oh, you suck. Oh no. And he would have no compunction, but to tell somebody, like he hated one of our directors, who in Space Academy, who happened to be married to one of the most famous female movie stars, and he would always give him hell. I guess I could say it now. A guy named Jeffrey Hayden. He was married to Eva Marie Saint.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but he would just treat him terribly. But Jonathan didn't care. He was just truly the funniest, greatest, most loving guy, and we still kept in contact till he passed on.
I saw an interview with him, and he was great. He talking about his days on Lost in Space, and he basically said, "I saved that show."
Yes, he did.
That's how he.
But he did.
Yeah,
but he had no compunction about telling you that.
Yes, right, right.
He would, Brian. He would call Brian. It's the king of voiceover calling you. Hi, Jonathan.
Well, okay, Brian. Thank you so much. Now I've got just a couple more questions.
Yeah.
I really appreciate your time.
Sure.
Okay. Wonder Woman, Linda Carter. Do you have any remembrances of her?
She was so sweet. Interesting story about that. I was hired at Warner Brothers. We were filming the Wonder Woman episode at Marineland. And so we all met at the studio. And there was another actor who was in there last night, something night. He was famous for working in Elizabeth Taylor movies and stuff like this. I can't remember his name. But we all drove in the car from the studio to Marineland together. Well, the guy was so drunk and so lit, literally in the car, you could get drunk on just his breath. He was so drunk. And he was going on about Elizabeth Taylor.
But he wasn't driving.
He wasn't driving.
Okay.
No, we had a driver.
Okay.
But he was in the car. And he was just so, I said, oh my God, how can this guy function? How can he do this thing? And so we finally get there. Then they fired him. And then replaced him with I forget the guy's name, but it was a Day of the Dolphin, takeoff with George C. Scott.
Oh yeah.
But at the time, Linda Carter was it. She was like the biggest thing, the
For
biggest.
2 or 3
star.
years there, she was
it,
yeah.
and I just loved her. She was so kind to me and so sweet. And we laughed. We had so much fun, and everybody liked to keep her away, but she oh Brian never, and she was just so friendly. And the thing I remember about her was her waist. Literally, it was like this big. She had some kind of a thing around her waist, but it was like this big. I couldn't believe it. She was beautiful. And so, anyway, that was just such a lovely memory because I was kind of intimidated in the fact that I'm working with Linda Carter at the time that she's at the pinnacle. And she couldn't have been sweeter, and she treated me so well.
That's great. I just have 2 more questions,
Yeah.
okay? Hawaii Five-0, Jack Lord. Do you have
Okay.
any remembrances of him?
I have big, because I did, he's the one that had me come back to do the same character. I did multiple episodes.
I couldn't find those episodes to watch. I wanted to, but I was watching the other ones. I didn't have time,
Yeah.
but I wanted to watch those. Doggone it. I wish I'd seen them.
Jack Lord, at the time, also was the number one. He was the biggest thing. I mean, he was on for 14 years. I think he beat James Arness as far as series, having series on the air.
And he ruled that set with an iron fist, right?
They called him Jack, Get Off My Island Lord.
Oh, huh. Yeah.
Okay, and so I love this story. So the thing is that Jack would fire entire crews, right? And that time he had a secondary crew come in when I came in. So they hired me to guest star as this guy who was in a prison, and Jack helped this guy escape from prison and go undercover and help Hawaii Five-0, the 5-0. So the thing is that I got the role. It's a guest star role. It's a big role.
Yeah.
And so I go to Hawaii, and they said, you have to meet Mr. Lord. And it was a big deal because he hated like a lot of actors and didn't like he was very difficult. So I was led to believe, so I was told. So I go to the set, and this guy, Don, the first assistant director, okay, are you ready? You have to meet Mr. Lord. He wants to run lines with you to make sure that you know what you're doing. I said, all right. And so he brings me over to his trailer, and he's getting all done up and whatever.
Now, excuse me, can I ask a timeline? Was this like in the mid-'70s or the early 70s? Or
God, it was
or 60s?
late
even?
70s.
Oh, late 70s, okay, yeah.
It was
you were
one
a
of the
little
last.
older.
It was one of the last seasons.
Yeah, okay.
Last seasons,
Okay, yeah.
And so basically, but by then he was feared. Feared.
Yeah.
I mean, he had like the governor's sons working on the show, and he had a lot of power on the thing. And so I go and I sit down. He says, you got to sit at his table and wait for him, Mr. Lord. And you have people just standing, just waiting for him to come out. He finally comes out, and he sits down. And how do you do? And Jack Lord. I go, hi, Jack. Nice to meet you. And you see the people, kind of watching. Oh, I'm Jack, right? And he goes, hi, how you doing? 'Cause I don't know. I don't know. We're just actors. So I said, before we start, I think like, fuck. Before we start, I have some notes. He says, and I said, first of all, in the show, it says I wear this mustache, and I didn't look stupid with the fake mustache, and it was hard for me to grow. Mustache was still younger. And so I said, you know what? We've got to get rid of that thing. We've got to get rid of the mustache. Oh. I said, it looks really stupid. He says, well, what are we going to do? I said, well, let's do my hair differently. So basically, so I did it back and everything, but he said he acquiesced to that. And so he kind of thought it was kind of funny that I didn't fear him, because I think he might have gotten like that or something.
Yeah.
And so once we went through that, he says, let's run through the lines. And I knew all my lines, and I had a lot of them. So we would start into the thing, and I'd stop. I said, Jack. And these people are going, he's going to be fired. The kid's going to be fired. I go, Jack, if you do this and I say this and we do this, don't you think it'd sound better? Why don't we try? Okay. Anyway,
Wow.
these people are shitting their pants because they're thinking, how can this kid talk to Jack Lord, Mr. Lord, get off my island, Lord, like that? Anyway, he and I hit it off famously.
Oh, that's great.
Famously. And Jimmy MacArthur and I hit it off famously.
Oh yeah, he's a good guy too. I mean,
Love
I
Jim.
love his character.
Yeah. And he played Dano. And so basically, Jack and I hit it off, and he always liked talking to me and all that kind of stuff. And I did 2 other episodes. I actually pitched him saying, Jack, I should come back. I should be a part of your thing. I worked for undercover for 5-0. I mean, I had that kind of balls at the time. And so he actually put the word in and said, let's hire Brian again.
Well, I'm definitely tracking down these episodes for
Well,
sure.
it's like number 1 with a bullet, and it was a 2-part episode
Okay.
with, what's her name? And if I can't have you, I don't want nobody, baby. If I can't have, Maria Elliman, something Elliman. She was a big
I
singing
know the
star.
song, but I don't know who this sings.
Anyway, Yvonne Elliman.
Oh, okay.
She was a big Hawaiian star. Anyway, so I did this episode there, but what was interesting about that is I was stalked by this gang of male prostitutes. And I mean, that's a whole. I don't know if I should share that story because it's a really crazy.
You're
story.
welcome to.
Uh,
And in Hawaii?
In Hawaii. They cased out my hotel and cased me out so I was the stalking victim. And so I was there a month shooting the 2-part episode. And so what happened was there was in the hotel I was in, I went to the next hotel they were having some kind of big hotel sale. So I like those kind of, what do you call them when you go, swap meet kind of things.
Oh yeah.
So I went to one of those that they're having the next hotel, and I met these different people. I started buying a bunch of stuff, and really nice. And this one person in particular said, "Oh, how you doing?" Befriended me. I said, "Hi." I said, and they kept talking to me and trying to cajole me and stuff. I said, "Tell you what, if you can help me take some of this stuff back to my hotel, I'll order martinis or something, right?"
Oh boy, really making friends.
Yeah. So he said, okay. So we go over there, and then I order. I still have my fake ID, so it's like, if you look online, I'm actually younger. But anyway, so I had my fake ID, and came over there. We start drinking these martinis. He starts turning a little weird. Anyway, long story short, I needed to get him out of the room, and he wouldn't go. And he says, if I don't stay here, on this island, we can have you killed easily. It's real easy, and you're being watched. We watch you. And so it took me like 2.5 hours. I finally got him out of the room saying, "Oh, tomorrow let's get together. I've got to work and meet these people." But I was freaking out. I was so scared. So what happened was immediately as I got him out the door, I called the producers, and they gave me security. They moved me to another hotel. They did the whole thing. That was a weekend because it was during the weekend. And that Monday, I was going to work. I go to work. Jack wants to see you. And so I said, okay. So I go and I go in his trailer, and he didn't invite people to his trailer and stuff. But for some reason, we got along. Brian, come here. He's like that. Right? Brian, come on, sit down. I want to know everything. You tell me everything. So I was telling him all, because there was a lot of stuff that went on.
Yeah.
A lot of crazy stuff. So I'm telling him all the activities that they've done and all the threats and all the craziness. And when I came on set, we were filming in the Ilikai Hotel in this parking area, and they had all the gang looking down on these different levels watching, and they all knew. So there was all security, there's police. Anyway, so as I'm telling Jack about all this stuff going on, the door in the back flies open. This guy races in, and he looks, and I go, "That's him." He goes, "That's him." So he's screaming, and security is coming in to tackle this guy. And as I'm telling Jack this whole story, the guy breaks into the trailer and tries to come in, and they got him and grabbed him. I didn't prosecute, but it was an interesting thing. So anyway, Jack, when you say Jack Lord, I hear all these horrible stories about Jack, and I know he's fired full crews. But with me, I have nothing but the best things to say about him because he was such a great guy.
Well, I think he respected that you spoke up and that your instincts seemed to be correct about what you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of worked out. Yeah, it did. And that's the thing. I knew the lines, but he's an actor too. I always thought, all right, we're all actors. So you happen to have a series. I never really kind of felt that, they're better. Oh, they're
It's
better.
like you were all in the same club because
We're
you
on the
all
same
did the
club.
same
I
kind
worked
of
with Yul
entertainment.
Brynner. I mean, and till the day he died, we were so close. I loved that man.
Oh, that's
And
great. That's great.
Ricardo Montalban. You know, he and I, he was like a second dad to me. I did
What
the
did
King
you
and
work? Oh, The King and I. He was.
I did the kid. I did this TV series with Yul Brynner on CBS for The King and I, but I did the stage play with Ricardo Montalban. I played the oldest son, but Leslie Easterbrook, who played Sergeant Callahan, was in the play. I knew her since I was a little kid. She
Oh,
played
wow.
I have twin sisters. She played their mother. She wore a black wig and played one of Ricardo's wives.
Oh.
And so I knew her, you know, way back when, and decades later, when she became a big star from the police academies, then I become her lover. So that was. But here again, Ricardo Montalban was a big star from old movie days, and so I was never really, other than Linda Carter, I don't think I was intimidated by anybody, really.
Well, it sounds like you picked the perfect occupation for yourself. Now, and then one last question here.
Yeah. I keep yakking so much, Mike. I know. I'm so sorry.
That's
Probably
okay.
wasting all your.
No, well, good news is this can hold 20 hours worth of conversation. I understand, so no problem. We
Oh,
can
wow.
be here till tomorrow morning.
Wow.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
This is the last question.
Okay.
How in the world did you get a role? I believe it said uncredited role in Starship Troopers.
Oh. I did a thing. I think I went on set and did some kind. I forget. That was a long time ago. That was.
97,
Yeah, it was a long time.
90.
Was it 90s?
This says 1997.
Okay, because I think I went on set and I did some kind of thing. I mean, I had a lot of friends that did all sorts of stuff, so I would like show up or do stuff on different things. And hey, do you want to do a little thing here, or do you want to do? A little...
That's cool.
Yeah.
I figured it was something like that. Like you knew so many people in the business.
Yeah.
And, hey, you want to come see the set? It's really
Yeah,
cool
right,
or
right.
whatever. You know.
Exactly. Like I did with the Star Trek thing, with coming back to do the thing with Jonathan. Is that I did the original Star Trek, and the producers called up and said. They knew that I did the original. Hey, do you want to do this other Star Trek thing?
Yeah.
I said, yeah. You get to be on the bridge. You get to do it with Jonathan. You know, and
Yeah,
I said,
fantastic.
okay, yeah. And
Cool.
so I said, that's how that kind of worked. Back then, also, it's like smaller community.
Yes.
People knew, you knew everybody else, and
Interesting.
yeah.
Wow, man. So, look, thanks so much for your time. It's
Oh,
just
Mike,
been a real
my
pleasure. I know I feel bad taking your time away from everybody else,
Oh,
but I
no,
feel
no.
like we learned a lot. We're going to put together a good production. Joe here is a great editor. And
Please don't make me sound like an idiot.
Oh, no. No, it'll be cool. And just thanks so much.
Hey, you bet.
Appreciate
And
it.
Mike, I have to tell you, you're really talented. This is really so cool. I love
Thank you.
this. I
Thank you.
really
Oh,
do.
and did we get you to actually sign this? Because
Oh no!
I
I'll
did.
do it. I'll sign it.
Hey everyone, wow, was that fantastic or what? Brian Tochi, just very giving of himself, told many really great stories, very extroverted guy, very likable. That was fantastic. That was like way, way better than I had imagined or hoped. And thanks again, Brian Tochi, really appreciate it. See you next year.